Welcome into 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Rash. He's Adam Luckett. And each week we talk all things Kentucky football, sprinkled in with a little bit of nonsense from around the Southeastern Conference, and just whatever the hell we feel like talking about. It's the month of June, which means it's recruiting season. It also means we're jet setting, so we're talking to you even earlier this week than last week. I took some time off. Now Luckett is going down to Margaritaville, right?
Key Largo, but might as well be.
Isn't that Beach Boys went to Key Largo, Montego? Baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo?
Is Key Largo in that song? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Key Largo.
I'll take your word for
Montego.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is the first of the Florida Keys too. So like if you do the drive from Miami, you get the big old island, but you still got a couple hours before you actually get to Key West. So, so you will not technically be at Mike Leach's old stomping grounds. You're still a good ways away.
No, this will be my second time there. We've stayed in Key Largo both times, but I think we're going to drive down for a day and do the whole Key West thing. So it'll probably be a Sunday. Yeah, I've done it before. We've done it before, and it was a good time. So yeah. Definitely excited about that, and gonna go have a good time, have a few pops. And if it's anything like the last few years when I've taken off, Nick, in June, we'll have a commitment spree because that happened 4th of July 2 years ago, and then I moved my time off away from 4th of July. Like I'm gonna avoid this, so I'll go like middle of June when it starts to slow down, and then that's when they had their big commitment run. So the commitment run for Kentucky is on the way. It would have just been perfect if Davis McCray popped tomorrow because that would have been just like, of course, this is how it works.
And especially, he had already waited past the traditional window of like, oh, the visit just happened. Now he's going to commit fresh off it. Like, after 48 hours, you usually expect there to be no news in that regard. But he decided at the 47th hour, let's go ahead and pop. We'll get to that. But we do got to thank our sponsors. And Cole is already thanking one of our sponsors in the chat. Like it. That's when you know we're going to have a good day. Because he said, shout out to Roback and the KSR promo code. Told my wife what the ideal Father's Day present would be a UK Roback polo. Cole's going to have a great Father's Day. Because Roback has the best gear at the best prices. Especially when you use that promo code KSR. You're going to get 20% off your purchase. They have the best polos in the game. They got that UK game day collection, along with great shirts. I have one that it's collarless, so like I look a little bit more casual, but it still feels really comfortable. They got the shorts, all the gear you want, all the gear you need for your Father's Day, and you're gonna get 20% off when you use that promo code KSR on your first purchase at Roback.com. That's RHOBACK.com. Promo code KSR for 20% off your first purchase. Man, I just realized too, like it recently, like, ooh, I am going to get to milk a Father's Day pretty soon. That's going to be nice. What? The golf course has got to be just packed on Father's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's like their biggest day of the year, I would say. One of them, at least.
That's like Black Friday for retail.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they make their money. That has to be one, especially here locally in places where you can't golf, or can't really golf 4 months out of the year, I'd say. So that's got to be one of the big weekends. Everyone booking up tee times.
It's also one of those things that I kind of wanted to sit on my butt on Father's Day and watch the U.S. Open. But when I do watch major golf tournaments, it makes me want to scratch that itch. So, we might find a way to get out there one day during Father's Day.
Yeah, the best day.
Roback.
The best way to do that, golf in the morning, and then by the time that round's over, you get home, and then you get there for the good stuff with the U.S. Open before they make the turn. So if you could time it up where you could actually do both, that's probably the way to go about that.
I want to obviously we're gonna spend a lot of time talking recruiting, but this is a fun question in the chat. Percentage chance that Summerall is the coach in January. That's from Nate. I'm not going to do that. I just gave me an excuse to point out that, dude, their non-conference schedule rocks. I don't know how locked into it you are, but I was just doing some homework on Ole Miss, and So Summerall gets to go back to a place where he once coached. So they play at Ole Miss, and I want to say week 4 or week 5. Like it's kind of early on because they'll play Kentucky, and then I think they get kind of a snoozer, and then Tulane. But Duke is going to Tulane.
You think they'll be fired up for that game?
Oh, whatever. I don't care what the spread is. I'm betting Tulane to win that football game. I don't care. Give me the green wave against their former quarterback Darian Mensah. Was it $3 million man?
Is that week 1?
We can.
It's either week 1 or week 2, I think.
I mean, that rocks, and the fact that it's at Tulane. So here's how they open. They open Northwestern at home, which would be cool to play on that.
Yeah, that's right.
On that place, but they should beat Northwestern. South Alabama, a little Troy USA renewing the rivalry, which I don't know if Summerall ever lost to USA back when Kane Womack was there. Like that was a fun rivalry game.
No, I think he was 2-0.
Yeah, and then Duke is going there week 3 before Tulane travels to Ole Miss. That's their first 4 games of their schedule. It freaking rocks, man.
Yeah, I'm assuming that game's at like noon, so that'll be a popular Kroger Field game because that's Kentucky's got that 7:30 kickoff.
Duke Tulane's 8 p.m.
Oh, it's 8. Well, never mind.
Yeah, nightcap. But nevertheless, that's a very fun football schedule. So I guess before we get to recruiting,
the only thing I want to say to that question is
hold your horses.
It's going to cost a lot of money if UK wanted to move on, like a lot of money. In this time that we're in, I don't know that there's going to be a big itch from the university to pay that.
Not only the money that they would have to owe Stoops, which is a ton in a hurry. We aren't privy to his exact contract terms because Tulane's a private school, but he did just negotiate his way into a better deal after 1 year at Tulane too.
Yeah, but one thing I will say to that is typically these coaches, when they negotiate, it's because they're trying to get out eventually too. So typically they're not negotiating their way into a big buyout in football. Where basketball, that's what happens all the time, right? Like Nate Oates, Todd Golden, they all have these huge buyouts. So, we don't know. We don't know what the contract is because they're a private school. But typically for football, especially at a school like G5, if you're trying to move up still, you don't really see that. So, I wouldn't worry about it so much on that end. And I actually think for Kentucky, there's a lot of expiring assistant contracts, so they're not going to owe a lot for that. But Stoops' buyout is still like $30-something million.
It's a lot of money. 36, I want to say.
So, that I think that's a sentiment a lot of people are talking about. I think a lot of people have convinced themselves in their heads that this is it.
Yeah, and it's.
I would just do the league Corso not so fast.
Yeah,
my friend.
I mean,
because I think, if maybe the contract wasn't a thing, but the contract's a thing. Now, if someone decides maybe let's figure something out, then that could change things. But as of right now, I don't think you should operate in that. Like they owe him $30-something million to separate.
They owe him. I don't see them
paying. I don't see them paying that.
2 years of football teams of revenue, of athletic revenue for schools just to get rid of them. If you want to put it in that term.
To be paid in 6 weeks, 3 months, something real quick. Like they have to pay
90 days, I think. Yeah. So don't get your hopes up, folks, if that's what you're hoping for. We can talk more Mark Stoops later. I did want to mention, just piggybacking off Tulane's schedule, we got through most of the spring meetings news last week, but the other piece of spring news was Sankey just kept talking about wanting the committee to change their formula for something, and we're like, what the hell are you talking about? Basically, he doesn't want schools to be de-incentivized to play big games because it would hurt them. And they sent out this whole packet of here's how tough the strength of record is for SEC programs. It was the lamest bleeping thing I've ever seen in my life. The amount of trying to spin it is, oh, look how hard our record is. It's like, yeah, we get it. I don't think anybody is even challenging on you on that. But you had 3 lost teams, and it didn't cut it last year, man. They lost to too many bad teams. Alabama's strength of schedule put them into position there. It was a bunch of whining and bullcrap all over one team not getting in over an SMU team that only had 2 losses. And one of them was it to Clemson in the championship game on a field goal.
Right, they were 11-2 on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, sorry, that some years you're going to get left out, most you're not. I was talking to a friend of mine that was listening to our show from last week, and he's like, I am so sick of coaches whining, but that is their whining platform. Like, really, spring meetings.
That time of year.
It's like where they all can get together and just bitch about their jobs for a week while they're on the beach.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that everyone works for different people, and you're trying to get the best or the most money or the best access possible. And so for the SEC, I think like Greg Sankey's goal is that if you go 9-3 and you have a winning record in an 8-game conference schedule, he wants you. I think there's a legitimate argument that you're a top 12 team. Like if you go 9-3, 5-3 in the SEC, they feel like you're a top 15 team. And I don't think that's crazy when you look at historically some of the advanced metrics for teams where they rank in that situation. And I think the bigger point for Sankey, and I think it's a point that you can really realistically make, is that the Big Ten's bad, or the bottom floor, the ACC's bottom floor, and the Big 12's bottom floor is just way worse than the SEC's typically.
Right. Which the bottom floor beat Bama last year, and it was Vandy and Oklahoma, which Vandy's one thing, but Oklahoma being a bad team in your league is, that's saying something, right?
Those are 2 bowl teams too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's ultimately what cost them. And then on the other foot, like Indiana just completely took care of business. And I think their only losses were 2 playoff teams. Obviously Notre Dame and I think Ohio State, who won it all.
But they kind of got handled in both those games. Thing with Indiana though, they won all these games, but they beat the hell out of people all year.
Yeah.
Did you see their machine? They were winning games 50-7 with their backup quarterback. It was like, well, you got to put them in, but you looked up and it was like, well, their schedule was really kind of. They played a bunch of 6-6, 5-7, 4-8 teams, and then they played the 2 teams that played for the national title. It was kind of a weird schedule. There wasn't really an in between.
Yeah. And then they're not helping matters any this year. They announced their non-conference opponents, and it was a very funny graphic because I want to say it was Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State was in there.
A real poop show of just the worst teams you could possibly. I think Old Dominion.
Dominion was in there. That sounds right.
And one other just god awful team. I
love that formula. But I love that people here are just like sitting here wanting Indiana to play better teams. Like this is Indiana football. Like, what do you want them to do? Like, they're trying to win as many games as possible. They're scheduling how they probably should schedule.
We get to the complaining part of the year, and that's everybody's just got to whine,
Yeah, I thought most of the complaining last year. I thought most of the complaining every year with the playoff was kind of silly. I think they've gotten the teams right every year.
Yeah.
Like SMU was 11-1 in a power conference. Indiana was 11-1 in a power conference. Those teams should probably be in a 12-team playoff.
And that's not going to happen every year. So
yeah.
But we can put that to rest, and we can move on to the CAYTS Cates, your Kentucky Wildcats, who opened the month of June with 1 commitment. It's not a lot. Not a lot at all. They were the only power conference team with just 1 commitment. Fortunately, that did change today. Davis McCray was one of 8 official visitors that the Cats had over the weekend. 3-star wide receiver from San Antonio, Texas. So the Cats did get 1 on the board What can you tell us about old Davis McCray from San Antonio, Texas, Mr. Luckett?
Yeah, Kentucky kind of got in on McCray here later in the spring semester. He actually had an official visit for June 13th with UK. They moved it up to this first weekend. This is a guy who didn't get a rating from like the recruiting sites until probably about 3 weeks ago. So he's got late on the scene. He actually played, I believe, in one of those 7-on-7s with one of the best quarterbacks in Texas. I believe who's committed to Houston right now, but it's got some guys trying to flip him. 6'2", but track athlete, 100 meters on his relay team, long jump. So kind of a guy who's going to be kind of an outside receiver for you, maybe a vertical threat down the road. And he was one of, I think, like they've got 10, 11 receivers here, Nick, that they were getting on campus. To me, it almost feels like they just let's get a win. Let's get somebody in the boat. Now, I'm always iffy, like recruiting Texas at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you keep them there? We saw it with Jacaden Ferguson last year. Ultimately, he ends up flipping to Arkansas. Like, can you logistically keep them committed and get them here? And doesn't work because that's not something we've seen really them ever do. I mean, there's been like Anthony Kendrick was like the only Texas guy I remember here.
AK?
Yeah.
He
I believe Katy, Texas, where he was from.
He ran around with a crew that I ran around with in college. He would. You remember how they had the longboards? How that was a thing?
You mean like to take to the beach?
No, like the skateboards, the giant like.
Oh yes.
He did the opposite. He had like a tiny little short board. So he was this 6'5" tight end, great shape, and would ride around on this skateboard that was like the size of a foot. I mean, I don't know how he would get both of his feet on there, but AK, great guy. Maybe skateboarders aren't the best football players. I mean, it was cool seeing Donut Drennan doing his little skateboard trick, but
I thought that's where you were going.
That was a sign, like it. That was a sign that maybe this wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, they just never like the Texas to UK route. It's not been something that's been fruitful. Now they've got Jay Boulware and LaDamian Washington both kind of recruiting Texas actively, and then DeKill Shorts was as well when he was here. So we'll see if it works out. But I thought for LaDamian Washington, I think it's a good first win, and I've been impressed with kind of the work he's done here these last few months, just getting with kids, getting visits scheduled, and now he, the first one they host, he gets a commitment from.
I would also, Texas hasn't been kind to UK football. Maybe one of the kindest states to UK basketball in recent memory. De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle, the Harrisons, Tyrese Maxey. We did this exercise on radio. Texas has been one of the best states to Kentucky basketball in our lifetime. As far as giving UK good players, you also had a couple Final Fours in Texas. None ended up in titles. We had UConn heartbreaking each. But that's where they won in San Antonio in 98. So Texas, not good for UK football, but pretty good for UK basketball.
Yeah, when you say that, my brain just goes to the 2005 Elite Eight.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because that was one of the last years that they actually put the logos on the floors.
I think that's why it does that.
We need that back because I need to see, I need to know exactly where they're playing the games by just looking at the court. I don't like the March Madness logo on every single court. I want a Dayton Flyer on center court for every single first four game. I don't need the first four, which Charlie Baker, man, kick rocks, dude. He is hell-bent on appeasing the conference commissioners. And I know where you stand, Luckett. You're ruining the NCAA tournament. More games.
They're not touching the NCAA tournament. Like the date that's not, to me, that's just like an extension of a conference tournament. They're not touching the Thursday. The Thursday is going to be the same.
Let's let a bunch of mid-ass teams in the tournament.
Who cares?
They don't belong
I don't
there.
understand why people are pissed about this. Who cares if two more bubble teams get in?
Because it's going to look stupid on your bracket when you print it out. Is that a fair enough argument?
All brackets are digital now. We do it online. So like, you pick the team and then the logo pops up. It looks better that way. I just don't understand why we're like trying to fight this tooth and nail. Like, who cares? Let them do it if this is what they want to do to make more money. They're not touching the real tournament.
We're just letting more, Chris Jansen, the dentist of the world, get the NCAA tournament, letting him buy another year of mid-ass coaching, which, you know what? Fine by me. When push
they're actually making more of those teams earn a right to be in the actual tournament because they're going to have to win a game against a peer.
The part that I'm mostly for.
Yes, you don't. We're just no one wants to ignore that part. You're actually like making bubble teams earn it,
right? Which is true, but the part that I think it's just the purest. Like, let me just hate on all of the money hungry people. Sort of.
I get it. People love the 60-14 format, and they don't want them to mess with it, and they feel like this is a step towards potentially messing with it. I understand.
It's the same case that Josh Pate made a few weeks ago, and he's like, well, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and you just worry how far they're willing to take it. But if it just goes to what I think it would be what? 4 more games on Tuesday, Wednesday? Like,
it would just be like you would have more basketball midweek, so you would just be. So what's it? Tuesday, Wednesday. So maybe you would play it. I think you would play an additional game both days. So we'd have like a triple header instead of
depending on how much they expanded it to.
Right, but that's or maybe a quadruple header on. But you would just have more games will be on all day.
Now I like what Peak's proposing, that some of these teams got to be regular season conference winners that lose their conference tournament game. That's a fun way to get in more mid majors, but this ain't for the mid majors.
No, more. I mean, if you do that, you're going to have more first round blowouts over a large sample size. Now, I get like that's a huge part of the tournament is like the Cinderella factor. But we're arguing kind of like it's a lot of it's like how do you value this tournament? There's a lot of different ways I think to kind of.
Well, who was the one that team that got there? It was who did North Carolina rock?
St. Peter's in Elite Eight.
No. Last year in the first 4, they won by like 40. Everybody was pissed that North Carolina got in, and then they won their first 4 game by 100 million points.
I can't remember who it was because it wasn't West Virginia. And then I remember Xavier played Texas in a really fun game.
It was it was San Diego State because they had no offense. They couldn't score.
Yes.
Yeah. Magoon Guath. But
yeah, I just think like they play these first 4 games, and I think a lot of I think people that watch it like it, and I think people that don't just don't watch it. And I think a lot of people don't turn on the tournament until Thursday. At 11:45 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh, you bet my ass is betting on a couple of those first 4 games, though. Come on. What are we doing here?
Also, like, people tune out of those 16-16 games, so they want probably better names in the first 4 that'll make more money. But they're going to try to do stuff like this because they need to make more money. So they're going to be more willing to experiment.
We got a little sidetracked, so let's get back on track with Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel, where they're going to put your home equity to work with the HELOC special. Go ahead, see what you can get with a home equity line of credit at Monticello Bank, a local bank that will give you the best rates because that's where people matter, right? They've been in business for more than 120 years. They got locations, 20 branches in 14 counties across the Commonwealth. Even if I wasn't going to be telling you about our presenting sponsors, I would tell you that you're going to get the best rates if you bank local rather than one of those big online national chains. Monticello Bank, they're going to take care of your people. They're going to take care of us. And they're also conveniently located online at nbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Whatever your banking needs are, Monticello Bank got you covered. Kentucky needs wins. They got one brief win. They're going to have more official visitors this weekend. But before we get to like what could be next, we do need to peel back the onion a little bit and just kind of diagnose how we got here because look, this is not a good spot. Like let's be real. Like Kentucky's in a very bad spot, and I think you can apply Occam's razor to some of the reason why Kentucky is struggling in recruiting, which is you go 4-8, you steer heavily into the transfer portal. It's going to be an uphill in the recruiting ranks, especially when one of the states you recruit in just won a national title, and your two other rivals that border you, one went to the college football playoff, the other was in an ACC title game 2 years ago, and then was Louisville 9-3 last year, or 8-4? They were one of the two. I think the Stanford maybe bumped them down to 8-4. But nevertheless, you've given all of these schools around you opportunities to take advantage of your shortcomings, and that's what's happened.
Yeah. I think to me, it's like, how big of a red flag is this? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
And it's fair question to ask because this is new. 10 years ago, we would be waving them flat like, oh, I think Stoops has lost it. But the portal makes this a more nuanced conversation.
Right, and they're coming off a period where I don't think this portal class, was just like, wow, that's a clear A, but they had a lot of needs, and it feels like they addressed them all, and they really did do what they said they were going to do, which was reboot and flip this roster. But in no way is anyone's plan, no matter how much you're leaning on the portal or how much you're not leaning on the portal, is to get into June and only have one commit. And so, and then when you start looking at the board, Nick, it's hard to even have you made any RPM picks? Because I haven't for them.
No.
It's they don't it doesn't seem like they lead for anybody. So, these little things are kind of adding up, right? You have what I think a lot of people considered a 3-year slide. You're calling it a 1-year slide. You say we're going to fix the culture. We're flipping the roster. We're getting back to kind of being what we think is a run first football team. But obviously that message you have is not translating on the recruiting trail for one reason or another. And let's just face it, things around them are really negative, specifically online. You can put, this because you do it every day. That's your job to cover Kentucky football. And post about them.
Oh, every day is a ratio waiting to happen. It doesn't matter what it is, good, bad, or indifferent.
So it's not just us. It's probably it's the Kentucky football account, the official one. It's when these recruits are getting recruited, they're probably hearing stuff, or their family members are seeing stuff online. Mm-hmm. So it's something they're having to deal with. And with everything else, everything feels just very underwhelming. And it's just is there a plan? Because obviously that's not being necessarily perceived on the recruiting trail. Because yes, I think you needed to go into this thinking, well, this is going to be tough sledding.
Yeah,
but I think it's gone even worse than I think even the most pessimistic person. It's gone maybe a little worse than they thought it would go.
Especially with some of the in-state kids where it hasn't felt like they've even tried. The one that really bummed me out was Evan Hampton, the Owensboro running back, where he fits what you want from a running back. He was committed to your baseball program when you started recruiting him, and I say that word loosely because they offered him, but I don't know if he ever
he just showed up at a camp and did a thing one summer.
Right. But did they ever actually try that? And that's I think the people who follow this closely, the answer looks like no, where you're just well, what are they actively trying to do? And it's hard to get a good read for them. You mentioned LD Washington early on having pretty decent return. Maybe it's his naivete, But like he at least is like getting after it. He had the graphic today. It was fall down and it had 7 slash marks, and then get up and it was 8. So I guess that was his way of acknowledging that, okay, things have been tough, but we got some good news on the horizon.
And he's also the most active coach on Twitter by a lot.
Which isn't saying much. Like, you don't have to be the most. You can tweet once a week and be the most active coach on Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
Even Vince, who's very active on social media, is like quote tweeting videos from a week ago. You know, like there's just not a lot going on out there. But they are getting like that. You say that, and then they're still getting guys on campus, but it's just hard to gauge on, like you said from the jump, like how much traction do they have? Because the one player I wanted to bring up, Luckett, who felt like a year ago they would have had a real good shot and probably would have gotten Tower Duel. I believe he's from Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Offensive
Westchester,
tackle.
Pennsylvania. Yes.
Eric Wolford, good recruiter. This is a player from Big Ten country who doesn't have the top tier Big Ten offers, the Ohio States, Penn States, yada yada yada. Like, you're competing against the West Virginias, the Rutgers,
Pittsburgh.
Pitt, Virginia Techs of the world. Like, that's the kind of recruitment. Like, you should have a real shot to win that. Not only just get them on campus, but win that recruitment. And this kid's committing to Rutgers before ever making the campus. Like that's the part where that's me holding up my red flag. That was one where I'm just like, in any other normal given year, that's how that transpires. But this is clearly not a normal recruiting cycle for Kentucky football.
Yeah, I go back to kind of this come to Jesus meeting. Come to Jesus meeting. They said as a coaching staff. That they had.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if like recruiting for what part of that was recruiting, and what was the kind of consensus to come from that? Because it seems like there's a lot of position recruiting going on right now. I know we've talked about how Vince is it's a very quiet cycle from Vince. Nick, I don't think there's one kid from Ohio making an official visit in June.
That's weird.
Makes you wonder. And then, they're not active in Kentucky at all. And I wrote about this at KS Board this week. There was a defensive lineman at North Hardin, Josiah Hope, and a defensive lineman in Dayton, Jamarcus Weiss. Both took OVs. Go ahead.
They didn't get Weiss either on campus?
He committed to Louisville during his OV. Him and who's the other kid I just named?
Hope. I mean, Weiss, part of the reason why they got the one tackle, Jameel Atkins, is because they wanted Weiss for the next year.
Yeah. So, it's just what?
North Hardin, you've gotten every good player out of North Hardin for the last 10 years.
That's why I'm my antennas are up a little bit. I'm just like, something doesn't smell right here. Like, something is off. So what is really going on?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of trying to and then I put my kind of forecasting hat on for this season. What's happening in this high school cycle doesn't give you a lot of confidence about what's going to happen once the season starts. It doesn't seem like there's a legitimate plan and cohesion going on from station to station that there should be from recruiting.
No, there's continuity, okay? We got continuity.
Well, that is the point. If that is what you're leaning on, this should be kind of a
this should the same rope situation. Yeah.
Where you shine, right?
Yeah.
Where it seems to be working out for you. Instead, it seems like everyone out for themselves. Instead, the goal seems like, let's get as many guys on campus as possible in June and try to put together a class. But then the first weekend comes and you don't really get much buzz from it. You get a surprise commitment because I thought the read I had on the McRae thing was they They liked him. They were going to get him on campus, but they had a lot more receivers coming. So I didn't know if they were going to go, hit the gas in that recruitment to try to close it up. So it's just like, it makes you just think, like, what is going on here? Well, this is the time of the year where you shouldn't be getting, there's always going to be criticism that comes with recruiting, but now it's getting to the point where I think more of like the Jim Pop fans are going to be like, they only have one commitment.
Oh, two.
They only have two commitments. Like, they have the least amount commitments, like a power conference program, or one of the fewest ones. Like, what is going on? Like, all these kids in Kentucky are going to Louisville. They don't have any kids from Ohio. Like, and then that's when some of the Debbie Downer, criticism starts to really creep in, I think. And it's not something you should want to have at this time of year. It's just, all in all, it's just like, what are we? You just come back to a feeling like, what are they doing? What is going on? Like, what is the plan? It gives you, I don't think it gives you any confidence about them moving forward. And then you go back, I think, to Stoops' comment. No one panic, right? Or nobody panic. Well, when you have one commitment or two commitments on June 3rd, there's going to be some panic in a chunk of your, followership or our follower base.
It's not good. It's not good at all. Yeah. Troublesome. Now, I do think there is a light at the end of the tunnel circumstance here, but a lot of it is you're leaning on a guy that is unproven as a recruiter. Bush Hamden has Kentucky as a finalist for 2 of the 6 best available quarterbacks in the country. Both are top 200 players. Oscar Rios from California, previously committed to Purdue when they had Graham Harrell as their OC. He took an official visit last month. He's announcing his decision at the end of June. And then Cincinnati Molar's Matt Ponatoski has Kentucky among his Final Four. He took an OV to UK as a baseball recruit. Told Jacob Polachek that, he's seen Kentucky. He probably doesn't need to come back for a football OV. He's done a baseball OV. Which doesn't exactly warm your heart.
Not necessarily what you want to hear, but yeah.
But they're among the 4 finals for him. Alabama and Oregon are his other 2 finals that he's going to take official visits to in June. If you get one of those guys, then you can get that quarterback shot in the arm, like big-time quarterback shot in the arm. No offense to Stone Sanders or Brennan Ward, but they aren't these sort of like, it's not like the Cutter Boley commitment where, or going further back, the Drew Barker one, where you start to see the snowball of guys who want to follow the leader, so to speak. There's a scenario where that happens. Am I predicting that will happen? Hell no. Right? Like, I mean, Bush, like, what do I know is Bush Hamden as a recruiter? Not much. And I don't say same thing with him as a play caller. We don't know much. He's at least fishing in the right waters. But first and foremost, with Rios, he's going to Colorado right before he makes his decision. Pat Shermer was NFL head coach. Deion's Deion. Good luck beating that out. And also good luck doing that for a West Coast kid. All of his other schools are on the West Coast. It's like Utah, Arizona. I mean, when Kentucky's only other West Coast quarterback was Steven Johnson. He was a community college kid. Like it's completely different. So I don't have a lot of faith in that one. Cincinnati Moeller, you should have a lot of faith in, but I don't know if Vince has talked to him at all. I don't know if he's involved, and Vince is the guy who has the Cincinnati Moeller connections. And then the other part, too, is it's like, man, if you are you too late to the party? Like, you feel like you thought they should have gone all in on this kid a year ago, and they didn't, and then he went and blew up, broke a bunch of records, won a state title. Maybe you could speak more to the camp that he had. I don't know if you want to talk about that story or not.
Well, I've talked about this, I think, before. But, like, that was the best, at least since I've been doing it. And I've seen multiple quarterbacks that are starting games right now in college football. That was the best passing workout at a camp I've seen at Kentucky, and I don't think it's very close. Like now, he had like Preston Bowman was out there, so there was a legitimate receiver like that level at least.
Yeah.
Just ball placement, timing, accuracy, pacing with his throws. I mean, it was just hit after hit after hit. I was like, I think I even talked to Josh Caddis there, and I was like, because he had a Muller stuff on. I was like, who is this kid? Because I couldn't figure out who he was. I was like, who is this guy? Like, am I the only, like, who else is seeing? Are you all seeing this? And so he had this great camp, and then you find out like he was a baseball commit. He hadn't really played quarterback yet. So I was like, well, I think I texted you. I was like, they found a guy here, like a dude.
Yeah.
Like the years of recruiting Muller tight ends and other players might finally pay off for him here. If like the big school stay, and then he has this monster year, or he leads Muller to state title. This guy won like Mr. Football and Mr. Baseball in Ohio this year. This guy's like what a freak, probably a scratch golfer. And so he blows up, but Kentucky never really made a big push. Now the baseball thing is a big factor here.
Yeah.
You really don't know what he's going to choose. And that's a huge factor, and he wants to play both. If you're going to play if you're going to be a power conference starting quarterback, I just don't know if you can play.
I learned today that Austin Simmons, during his redshirt year, he was a relief pitcher for Ole Miss.
Kyler Murray did it for a couple years.
Yeah, and Jameis even further back. But then once it got time to be a starter, it was time to hang up the baseball cleats, sort of deal.
Right, hang up the spikes. So I don't know, but I know this. Like, you can go watch this film; it's good. And so, I think that would be a big get. And Rios is a really good player too, a really good prospect too. Both these guys are going to be Elite 11 finalists. That's something Kentucky's really not had a bunch of.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to discuss a path forward where you could really like this class, where you could really sell it as a real positive for the program, I think like at this point, getting one of those is kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's almost a must, but I just don't have faith that it's so like it's possible to have success, but it feels like a long shot. And then where do you go if you don't get one of those? Like what's the outcome? It's
really not a good look for Bush Hamden if you have that bad of an offense and then you don't get a quarterback in your first full class.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because then it's like, what are you doing, man? Like this is the two biggest parts of your job, really. It's like getting quarterbacks and then
calling plays
and scoring.
You gotta be good at one of the two.
That's a really important development for him, and they've got a chance at two of them, and I will see how it goes. But like Oregon and Alabama are they recently entered Ponatoski's recruitment. It feels like they're just going to have more momentum to kind of get that over the hump than maybe Kentucky will, even though Kentucky has this long established, relationship with him.
Hopefully they do it because the alternative isn't great. We don't.
Yeah, because then it becomes like they're going to have to sell that they are a portal program, but that goes against almost everything they've said in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that they want to get good players, high school, recruit and develop. Mark Stoops even talked about it kind of on this past signing day, how that important that is. I believe, and I'd have to go back and listen to it, but they would almost have to be like, all right, we're doing it this way, and this is going to be our path forward. It'd be a hard sell, I think.
Which gets to the final point I wanted to make today, and that's our guy motivated Mark Stoops. I finally had to rip off the Band-Aid and write the motivated Mark Stoops column. Because it's one of those things that it was almost doing a disservice to Big Blue Nation that it hadn't been officially written into the ethos just yet. But it goes back to what are you selling going into the season? And if you can be a transfer portal program, it's going to be really hard to be successful against the schedule. Is it possible? Yes. But what do you sell to Johnny Wildcat, who is thinking about going to the game on Saturday, thinking about buying tickets, but isn't sure? Well, we got Josh Caddis and Jagger Burton. They're coming back. You seen that new offensive lineman they brought in? Like, I don't really know what you sell. And the point that I think that is important in all of this is, aside from just the fact that this is a big joke that people are kind of mocking Stoops for, like the reason why it's getting poked fun at is because a lot of people wanted answers following the season, and he was very bare on specifics and just said, I'm motivated to change that. Well, but how? What exactly is the fix? I'm highly motivated to change that.
Yeah, it was that, and I don't want to get into specifics, was kind of the two kind of phrasings.
Now, if you had to make us guesstimate and use our intimate knowledge of the program and sources and all that, some of that is they paid the wrong people in the past. And when I say people, I mean wrong players who were problems. They invested in the wrong type of portal players, Gerald Mincy, who were problems. Like, that's not all of the issue. And then some of it is also like, hey, we trust our guys to get it right if they do things the right way, which kind of feels a little bullcrappy. But you know what? That's what you're saying. You're sticking to your motivated guns. So, you know what, Mark Stoops? If that's what you're selling, then sell it and hit us over the head with it. Go over the top. Be ridiculous about it. Like that's the part that I just, like, that is better than nothing. And what they are doing right now is nothing. You cannot sell a 4-8 team and try to get people to show up for nothing. Like, you have to do something. So give us this. Don't give us 3-month-old interviews with transfers, right? Like, give us, like, Mark Stoops, red face, just turn him into Goku and going freaking nuts. But you have to give us something, because what happens when you do nothing, Luckett? It just, that the void will be filled empty by the space. Haters.
Right, yeah. Loudest will fill the empty space.
And it's all going to be haters. So give us something fun. Show us you have a sense of self-awareness. And, like, try to enjoy the ride. Because here's the thing. Whatever they do over the next couple of months, like, it's not going to make it much better, right? Like, they had a pretty damn good portal class, but people were still pissed off. They're going to be pissed off until they win a big game at Kroger Field. I know that's the reality that you're in, but you can make things worse, and you can sell fewer tickets by doing nothing. Right now, they're doing nothing. I would like them to do something and embrace motivated Mark Stoops.
Yeah, I'm on the record saying you've got to kind of lean into it. If you do win a game, you need to throw some meme up there in the fourth quarter. Like, just kind of to embrace it would be, I think, smart. I don't think, like, them just randomly in July putting a motivated Mark Stoops tweet out, I think people would get a kick out of it.
It would be the most talked about thing of the day, and it would be the first time that people have said good things about you in a long time. And the other part of it is, like, that right now is we can't even be like, oh, they got a commitment, without people being like, oh, well, who cares? He wasn't getting offered by anybody. Like, really, just every day feels like it's getting worse. Here's one way to get the sham wow and go and just smack it on the leak for just a little bit. Maybe they could get some of these OVE kids to come in and do a little rah-rah shishkamba. But I just, it feels like everything's going to get worse before it gets better. Look, and that just kind of sucks. At least motivated Mark Stoops, I get a kick out of it, right? Like, some of these, I had a good time typing that into the old Twitter machine search bar and just scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I will say, like, Stoops said, like, where they kind of went wrong, I do want to say this, is that, like, they paid certain individuals and that hurt kind of their depth. So they didn't have, and then when injuries started last year, they did not have the quality depth. So I think a big goal this year was kind of spread the wealth and build the most well-rounded roster they could in this kind of small window, which I think that was what they tried to do. Now, to your point, to try to sell that is like kind of hard when you've got, not to compare like Louisville, but even Ole Miss, when you have those two programs sell the head coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Louisville, it's our hometown hero, famous alum is back. And what is the gift that we see all the time? It's just let's play football. Like,
correct.
They sell the coach.
Juice, Lane's dog. The whole 9 yards, yeah.
They sell the coach. At Alabama, you don't have to sell SHIT. Excuse my language. You sell we're at frickin' Bama. There is no selling. We wear houndstooth hats and we win championships. So do you want to win championships or not? You know, at some schools you don't have to sell. Kentucky basketball doesn't have to sell much.
Yeah.
They just show you the banners, and that's what they sell to their fans, to recruits, to anyone, to investors, all of that. Kentucky football is not that. Like, you have to sell something at the end of the day. Now, you have a loyal base of people that will show up, but you cannot take them for granted. I worry about them being taken for granted a little bit here. Like, at the end of the day, part of this job is to sell tickets and to put an entertaining product out there. And I worry that that's not what's happening. But to the earlier part of the podcast, Mark Stoops has got a big contract here, and you've kind of got to ride this with him. And if he thinks this is the best way forward, you just kind of have to trust that kind of decision. But we'll see if it plays out. But in my opinion, they really could use I don't want to say a different way, but going about it this quiet, I just don't think is something you should do at Kentucky. Well, you've got to do something here. Like, it's like, poking the dog when it's laying down, or whatever that meme is. Like, just do something. You've got to do something. And I think they've kind of been handed this motivated Mark Stoops thing, to your point, where I think they could do something with that if they wanted to. But I don't think they said
college coaches are going to be in the new football game. Like, that would have been the perfect time. Motivated Mark Stoops is in NCAA football 26.
Which we haven't seen the graphic yet. It's been a few days.
Yeah.
Are Kentucky fans just going to have to get on to find out if he are there or not? Are we not going to know that until the game is released? Like, if he's not on the game, why would you not? Like, why would you turn it down?
Yeah.
Right.
Free publicity.
What are you, Michael Jordan or Bill Belichick, where you don't want your likeness because they're not going to pay you enough money to be in the game? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, but why wouldn't you just say, like, we're there? EA Sports seemed like they made like these graphic templates for all these schools, right? You see them all over the place.
Well, you saw them, and it was old news too. Like, that was a while ago, and it's
that was like a 48-hour thing. You put that out there after the trailer came out,
right? It's baffling, but that is Kentucky football this offseason. If it sounds like we're being a little doom and gloomy, we apologize, but that's just kind of where things are right now. If you're feeling a little doomy and gloomy and you want to change up your day-to-day lifestyle, Andy Luckett, he can hook you up with the right franchise. Maybe he can help you change your career path. Maybe we get tired of this career path because it's kicking us right in the ass, but Andy Luckett, he can help you with find the right franchise. He's a franchise consultant that can help you discover get to your passion, what you want to do, what you want to follow with your life. Find the right career that fits your financial needs and your passions with myperfectfranchise.net. You can email him, Andy, at myperfectfranchise.net, or call him at 404-973-9901 to set up an appointment and find a new way to invest your time to make some money in the franchising industry with Andy Luckett. Luckett, before we get out of here, we did at least have some news that gets us fired up somewhat for the football season. We got scheduled times. And I love the 12:45 start on Labor Day weekend.
You were the first person I thought of. I
Oh.
can see you doing that little dance you do in a chair, and the cackle, evil, like your villain laugh you had that I hear every Monday whenever there's a noon kickoff announcement.
Well, because especially Labor Day weekend, we got all these great neutral site games. It's nice to get your seemingly bad game out of the way early, and it's 12:45, which like you can show. How hard is it to get to Kroger Field by 10 a.m. and you still got almost 3 hours to tailgate? Like that.
Yeah,
that's
you've got a couple, like you got a 2-beer window there at noon.
Yeah,
get in the stadium by the time the kickoff starts.
The extra 45 minutes really, I think, does wonders for the tailgaters. Although 12:45, there's a good percentage chance that you're going to be roasting on that August 30th kickoff in Lexington, KY. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you from these first 3 kickoff times?
Yeah, I think you get all three. You get all 3 windows here. Like you get the 3:30, which I know is a lot of people's favorite kickoff time. But you also get a night game as well, where you can get a long tailgate in too. So you get, especially if you're starting the season, you get to kind of feel what's right here with each window: noon, midday, night, and then you also have to remember, like, if Kentucky's playing a home game in October, it's going to be at night. So. And they've got 2 this year. So you've got 2 more night games coming. So you're at least getting 3 night games here. And so I think you buy a season ticket, or whenever people buy season tickets, they always want those night games. So you're at least getting 3 this year to tailgate for. And so I think that's a plus for season ticket holders or people that want to tailgate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how many night games they're going to have at the Krog this year outside of the October dates. With Texas and
Tennessee.
Yeah.
You got the 8 back-to-back weekends, I think. I think it's the 18th and the 25th.
Yeah. But outside of that, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of night kickoff. So if you're one of those that enjoys the 7:30s, relish it while you can for the Eastern Michigan game. Hopefully they can make the most out of that opportunity against Ole Miss. That series has been a close one in recent years, going all the way back to DK Metcalf. Going into last year's game, 3 games were decided by 11 points. So they'd be 4 decided by 14 points. So in the Mark Stoops era. So you can't have a South Carolina repeat performance. That much is clear.
Yeah. 100%. I think, to me, Nick, the 2 most important games are probably Ole Miss and South Carolina. Peak, if you could pull up that schedule, if you can, if you're still listening. Now, I think you make an argument Toledo's the most important game, because if you don't win that one, then the season's done. Week 1. Like people are tapped out. But I think like you can lose Ole Miss and people are still going to mostly be invested. But if you lose both of those, Ole Miss and South Carolina, then you got to go to Georgia, I believe on the 4th.
Then a bye.
Lose that one. You're 2-3. Bye. Then you've got to play Texas, who might be a top 5 team, and Tennessee, team you just cannot beat.
Yep.
Like you could be very much looking at 2-5 and 0-3 in SEC home games down the barrel, right? And then people are just like, and then basketball's here, and people are just completely out.
Checked out. Yep.
Now I even think you could start 2-5, and I still think there's a path to get into like a 6-6, because you still would have Florida at home and potential winnable games against Vandy and Louisville on the road, and then you get that, I believe it's Tennessee Tech in November. So there's still a path where you could maybe get some wins and turn it around, but the BR hit would be pretty bad if you start 2-5. Yeah. So you kind of look at that schedule. You know, you need to take care of Toledo first, but that Ole Miss game is huge at home because everything that comes with it kind of being at home, but that South Carolina game on the road matters too. And I think they would get a lot of brownie points if they won that game, because South Carolina's going to have a lot of hype. That place will be buzzing. And you would finally, I think this fan base overall would relish beating that program and their head coach if you could get it done. But if you don't, then you're like, then it just unravels. I think it can unravel on you really fast if you don't win one of those games. Like, to me, if you're charting out a path, like, how does it work this year and how does it have a good season? Like, I think first bullet point would be you have to beat Toledo. Like, you just have to. And the second bullet point would be win one of those two games. If you don't win one of those two games, then I think you're kind of in trouble.
My third would be beating Tennessee or Louisville, particularly Tennessee, because that game's at home.
Yeah.
Like beating a rival does a lot of goodwill,
Right. Right. Because 5-7 with a win over Tennessee.
Yeah, that hits different.
It hits different. Yeah, you're 100%.
It just does. And I know there's a lot of people out there who will disagree with that, but it does. And I think that's the same.
In front of your fans, it would just matter more. That's worth like 3 wins.
And I think to apply it to basketball too, like if you told people the record that Mark Pope had in his first year and said he lost in the Sweet 16, and they finished, was it 8th in the SEC? Or
they were tied for they ended up 6th in the 6th seed,
right?
I think, but they were it was like a 3-way tie for 6th, I think. And
if you tell people that just on paper, 10 or 11 losses, 6 in the SEC, it's like 50-50 split on whether that's good or bad. But if you tell people that they beat Duke and they came back and beat Gonzaga and they beat Louisville in a great, thrilling game, they swept Tennessee in the regular season.
Beat the national champion at home. Yep.
Yeah, like that. He's got like 90% approval rating, right? So not all it's different, right?
It matters what games you win. Yes,
exactly. So that's why I think the Tennessee/Louisville game can be thrown in there, particularly at home. And we've seen what beating Louisville in the last game of the regular season can do at their place. The Ray Davis L's down in Jack Harlow's face. That was a dog shit season, pardon my French, that we almost convinced ourselves was a good one, especially if they would have found their way to hold on to Clemson, right? There was a lot of...
You could have made the argument that was one of the better Kentucky football seasons it would have been up there because of the wins they would have had. If you would have just ranked the wins that year. You smoked Florida at home, you knock Louisville essentially out of playoff contention, you beat Dabo Swinney's Clemson. That would have been considered a really great season when you kind of would have looked at it from that point. But yeah, I think the Tennessee, especially with Heupel being there, the further we get and move from that 2022 game where they just blew Kentucky out of the water, every game has been Kentucky had a chance to win all those games in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And they just haven't yet. And so you're getting another one at home. Even last year when they went in there totally banged up, they had their chances. And so that would do you a lot of good if you could win that. And I think it would give them some wiggle room potentially in the court of public opinion about where they kind of are. But again, that's, when's the last time they beat Tennessee at home? 2017. That's the only time they've done it in the Stoops era. And they've had a lot of chances and a lot of close games.
Yep. It'd be a great time to turn the tide. We got to get out of here, though. Our happy hour has come to a conclusion. Jack Pilgrim's going to be on tonight with a little Sources Say KS Board Q&A. Luckett is heading off to the Keys. I will be in Lexington on a Sunday at the first Kentucky football camp of the year. Maybe there's some commitments that I got to be ready for, but we'll certainly have updates from Kroger Field on Sunday afternoon. Luckett, enjoy the warm weather. We'll be getting ready for prime summer here in the Commonwealth and looking forward to another edition of 11 Personnel next week. He's Adam Luckett. I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.